Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about something a little bit oblique, a little bit unorthodox. That you don't might not see this really on too many videos or blogs, but I'm going to go through all 12 zodiac signs and talk about grudge holding as far as these signs, all their outlook on it. And I'm going to start with Aries and go all the way through Pisces. So let me get started. The first sign, Aries. Well, the one thing we know about Aries is that they can be easily provoked. And yes, I'm talking about Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Let me just get that out of the way. Now, Aries can have a very fiery temperament and can be rather combative sometimes, and they can be easily angered, but Aries is known to be the sign that really will not hold grudges. They're really generally not vindictive or vengeful, and they're not the type to brood over something for a protracted period. So when I look at Aries, they're a sign that can get mad easily, but they forgive and forget rather quickly. The next sign, Taurus, well, this is another kettle of fish entirely because Taurus is almost like the antithesis of Aries as far as that goes. And Taurus generally can take a while to really be provoked and to be angered, but when they become angry, they could be rather infuriated. And this is a type that I believe can hold a grudge for a very protracted period. I had a perpetual enemy at some point in my life that had a sun in Taurus, and depending on time of birth, more likely than not, his moon was in Scorpio. And believe he either, I would guess, if I had to venture a guess, probably either Taurus or Scorpio ascendant, and you have that combination. That combination is such where they're very, as far as the grudge holding, that could be very strong indeed. So anyway, the next sign, Gemini. Well, Gemini we know is a very mercurial and can be fickle sign. They're very effervescent, and Gemini's, I think Gemini can get mad and can be somewhat excitable and could get angry quickly. However, this is not the type that's really the ones that are going to hold a grudge for any long period. Now, I think when I see Gemini, though, for some reason, I think they can be a little bit vindictive and they use their mind sometimes to exact the revenge on a person, but I don't think they really hold much anger or malice towards somebody for that long period of time, because you have to remember Gemini is about variety and about Geminis will go from one thing to another very quickly, and I think that applies to the anger that they may harbor against a person. I think it can be there for a short period of time, but then it goes away and dissipates pretty quickly. So anyway, now the next sign, Cancer. Well, as many of you may know, my sun's sign is in Cancer, and Cancers being very emotional and sensitive, they can be brooding, I think, and Cancers, I think, can retain the memory of an injury for a prolonged or protracted period due to their sensitivity. However, I don't think it's quite as extreme or as high as, say, like a Taurus or a Scorpio personality. But Cancers, I think, can brood for some time, and because I think because they're so easily hurt, and I think that's what it's attributed to. Now, the next sign you talk about is Leo. And with the zodiac sign Leo, I think it's comparable to Aries. I think Leos have a fiery temperament, and they could blow up quickly sometimes, probably not as quickly as Aries on average. But saying this, they don't strike me as a sign that's very vindictive or vengeful or going to hold harbor grudges or ill grievances for any long period of time. They can blow up fairly quickly. But I think they have the forgive and forget philosophy. At least that is my outlook and opinion on it. So anyway, the next sign we'll talk about is Virgo. And many of you may know Virgo is a sign that's very about being very intellectual, analytical. And this is a sign that when I look at it, I don't see Virgo as a sign that really can hold grudges for a really long time, they can be the kind of people I could see them kind of analyzing certain situations. And I think what it is in some scenarios, Virgo people, after their analysis, quote unquote, if they feel that it's not, maybe it wouldn't be logical to reconcile with somebody that they may see as an enemy or adversary, they won't. But in other instances, if through their analysis and analytical ability or what have you, they feel they can reconcile and everything will be okay, they will. And it's not about being vengeful or vindictive or holding grudges or not. I think it's just the fact that they may use their analysis and analytical mind to make kind of determine whether or not they're going to forgive and forget, or they're going to mend differences with the person or not. Well, anyway, the next sign, Libra. Now, Libra, as many of you may know, it's about peace and harmony. Libras can be very equitable and fair-minded. So similar to Virgo, I think with Libra is about balance, and they don't like, Libras don't like strife or discord, and I think if anything, Libras will be the type to initiate a reconciliation, and they're not going to harbor any grudges for any very long or excessive period of time. But if they feel that somebody has done something that's connected with injustice toward them, they might hold the grudge a little bit longer, I think. So I think when you look at this, that when you look at the net, as far as Libra goes, it's kind of a 50-50 split with them. I think in some instances, if they feel a reconciliation is not rationalized or justified, they may not reconcile. But in other instances, if they feel that it was something trivial or insignificant, then they may be the ones to initiate possible a reconciliation and not hold a grudge for a long period of time. Now, speaking of a different kettle of fish, we're going to Scorpio. And I think Scorpio, on the positive side, they could be a very loyal and steadfast friend, but they could also be a formidable enemy, and that would probably be a vast understatement. Now, Scorpio, I see this as a sign that can be, the Scorpio can be very, vindictive and vengeful. They are certainly a master at finding the perfect way of exacting revenge on someone. I think if they so desire, I think they could spot someone's a negative attribute in very, very quickly, and they could use that to their advantage. Scorpio may forgive and forget, but they won't. They may forgive, but Scorpio will hold that memory of something negative toward them, something that was, whether it was something that was said that was derogatory or a negative action, they'll hold the memory of that for a long time. And Scorpios are not generally, in my opinion, they're really not quick to forgive in many instances. But I think arguably this could be the sign that may hold the grudge for perhaps the longest period of time of all the 12 zodiac signs. Now, the next sign, Sagittarius. Well, Sagittarius, as many of you may know, is really ebullient and effervescent, and they have this expansive, optimistic outlook. And I think because of their joyous nature, I would say, unlike Scorpio, Sagittarius will really, they will not generally harbor ill grievances against somebody for a long period of time. They want to see the positive element in things, and I think this pertains and applies to their relationships. If there's anything where they had an argument or something with somebody, I think they could forgive and forget very readily, because they don't want any negative thoughts to dominate their thinking. And I think that would include having anything connected with maybe a rift between somebody. So I see them as having a very strong forgive and forget philosophy. Now, Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is a sign that has a very stern and serious disposition. And I think they take all matters, and that includes a possible argument or negative action toward them, very seriously. Now, if they feel that something negative against them was very serious and was enough to perhaps end what may have been, say, what may have been previously a friendship or what have you, or if they thought, regardless if the person was a friend or not, if the person did something negative toward this person, it was something very serious, then I could see them forgiving, and I mean not forgiving and forgetting that easily. But if it was something that was rather unimportant and it was not of any great significance, or they didn't really suffer any loss that was devastating due to the negative action, then they may think about it and say, well, okay, I could proceed forward and not worry about this and try to mend fences. Now the next sign, Aquarius. Now Aquarius, I think, arguably can be the most unpredictable of all the zodiac signs. And when I look at Aquarius, I could see this as far as the grudge holding perhaps as well. Now, Aquarius is very intellectual, like the other two air signs, Libra and Gemini. And obviously, I think Aquarius can be very objective. So, on the one side, you might have the unpredictability of Aquarius. You might see them at times maybe forgive and forget over something that might be very big and prodigious as far as a negative attack on him or her, whether it was verbal or otherwise. Now, in something what many may see as trivial or insignificant, they might in some instances harbor some grievances for a prolonged period of time. But given the fact it is an air sign and they are objective, I would say on average, I think the grudge holding would be below average as far as Aquarius would go. Now, last but not least, Pisces. Well, Pisces, I see them as kind of a paradoxical sign as far as this goes, because you have Pisces being a water sign, can be very emotional and sensitive, and these emotions, I think with Pisces can be all encompassing. That is just my opinion. Now, if they are berated or they are hurt somehow, whether it's verbally or through another kind of action, I think they could really feel that pain for a prolonged period of time. But we have to remember that many of you may know that Pisces not just ruled by Neptune, it's co-ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is kind of that kind of exultant, that happy planet, that buoyant planet. And I think because you have the Jupiter influence, and coupled with the fact that Pisces can be very idealistic, they don't like to see the negative in other people, generally speaking. They may have the ability to wipe out maybe the negativity that was directed at them toward by somebody, and they can at a certain point in time will forgive and forget, but you have that sensitivity as well, so it might take them a little time to forget about things, but I think they can forgive in at least an average or adequate period of time. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the zodiac signs and grudge holding, and stay tuned next time where I will be continuing my signs on the House Cuffs series. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.